Okay, here we go. So welcome everybody. Let's make our way into child's pose where we can get started and get into our breath. So come on in, and it doesn't have to be child's pose. If you're more comfortable getting centered in like a seat or some other shape, please feel free to do that instead. And we'll start to get into our practice for this harvest full moon, fall equinox, election week energy flow. So here we go. So when you're in the shape that you're choosing to start in, whatever that looks like, start to find your breath. That's the foundation of our practice. And you're welcome to start your playlist now. You could wait a little bit once you feel a little bit more centered. That's up to you. If you're doing the recording, the link to a suggested playlist should be in the description for the video. So let's breathe. And if you haven't, you might want to take a few big sighs. The energy around this full moon equinox is really cleansing, really a big shift around letting go of something. So just noticing that there might be something around that happening in your life or in your body. Or maybe you're just kind of feeling the energy with the moon and the season. And just let your breath match up with it. So nice long inhales and exhales. Finding that Ujjayi pranayama if you can, which involves, among other things, a lift at the back of the throat. The diaphragm really widens and lifts on the inhale, and there's a very mild contraction into the core on the exhale. And when you feel ready, we can begin to move into our flow. So we'll make our way towards downward dog. There's lots of time to get there. So you might want to stay as you are a bit longer. You might want to explore cat and cow first. Wherever you are, just starting to connect the movement and the breath together. Feeling how each inhale is a lift, a lengthen. Each exhale is a drawing in, and maybe there's a little bit of that feeling of letting go. You might already be in that downward dog shape. Continuing with that same intention, if you're there, just moving with the breath, kind of exploring what you're feeling in your body and how you're connecting to the flow right now. This full moon to me feels like a crashing wave. There's some stuff going on that is like requires some surrender. That reminder that not everything is up to us, and that is good to know. But we can breathe. And then when you're ready, we'll come to standing forward bend. Knees at least soft, they could be quite bent. You could also have your elbows resting on your knees if that's more comfortable for your back, or hanging down. Sometimes I really like this one to just think about gravity realigning my spine. So just really letting go, maybe in movement, maybe in stillness, staying with that breath. And in your own time, we'll roll up. So you could bend your knees, gather belly in, and slowly curl to standing. One vertebrae at a time. You could come up smoothly with a flat back if that works better for you. Collecting the shoulders onto the back and then just taking a moment to really ground your feet into the earth. I'm just stepping up a little more to the top of my mat, lifting my toes, spreading them and reconnecting them into the earth. So just really feeling that support from beneath you and kind of flowing up from there. We'll move into our Surya Namaskar. So next time you inhale, reach your arms up to the sky. Exhale, dive. Inhale, lengthen. Right foot steps back, low lunge. This could always be a high lunge. Inhale, rising up. Downward facing dog, connect the palms, step back. Inhale to plank on or off the knees. Look forward and lower all the way down for this first one. Point the toes, roll the shoulders back, lift the heart. And then back to downward facing dog. Right leg will rise to the sky just as high as works for you. Step that foot through. Inhale into your high or low lunge. Forward fold as you exhale. So take your time. Lengthen. Flow down. Then the knees rise all the way up. Dive all the way down. Lengthen. Left foot back. Inhale, nice long breaths, no rush. Downward dog. Through Vinyasa, plank pose. Maybe this time on the exhale, it's a little push up, hugging the elbows in, and then you can pull through to your upward facing dog. On the tops of the feet, kneecaps are lifted, and then press back as you exhale. Catch your inhale, left leg rises, any amount. Step through. Do your lunge. Forward fold. Lengthen. And fold. Then the knees rise all the way up. Hands to heart, exhale. And just right away, we'll begin again. Keep on moving with your breath. Rise. And dive. Lengthen. Right foot back. Inhale. Beautiful. Downward dog. Plank. Little push up. Pull through to your back bend. This could be cobra as well. Downward dog. Right leg rises. Step through. Inhale. Beautiful, you guys. Forward fold. Lengthen. And melt. Then the knees rise all the way up. Exhale all the way down. Lengthen. Left foot back. Lengthen, rise. Beautiful. Downward dog. Plank. Little push up. Open the heart forward. Downward dog. Left rises. Step that left foot through. Inhale. Beautiful, everybody. Forward fold. Lengthen. And fold. Bend the knees, rise all the way up. Bring the hands together at the heart. Take a moment to breathe. Feel. Okay, bend your knees, reach your arms forward and up, coming into a chair pose. Keep a nice neutral back. Draw belly in and lift your toes up so that your weight is in your heels. And then press the heels down and slightly apart until you feel your glutes working, okay? And then from here, we can pulse a little bit. So you can do faster pulses kind of like this, little bounce, or you can move with breath just up and down. I don't really mind the pace so much. It's just kind of getting those little glute muscles to activate. So thinking about pressing into the heels to rise and then sink. This I find gets my heat going really effectively. Keep breathing. Last one. Nice. And then hook your thumbs, come up to standing. Lift the heart. And then just come to neutral so that you're not bending back too much. Your arms are just up to the sky. Soft knees and then curve over to one side. Keep breathing. Up through center, and then we'll go to the other side, about 3 breaths. Sort of clearing the lungs on each side. Up through center, release the hands around behind the back, hook the thumbs again, or you can grab your strap, pull the thumbs apart, spread the fingers, and open your chest to the sky. You want to be strong through your legs and your core, but you're not overdoing it. The focus here is really lifting the heart. Pull the shoulders down the back. Inhale and then fold down, bending the knees, letting the fists rise. Inhale and then release the hands down by the feet. Reach them forward and see if you can sit down with no hands. Give it a try. Step the feet out in front of you just a little bit. We'll just flirt with the yoga boat. Okay, we don't have to go too far into it. You can hold the backs of your thighs, lift your chest, hug the shoulders back, and then think about gathering pelvic floor in and up, belly button back towards spine, and just lean back a little. So that might be plenty. You could also lift your feet up, squeeze them together, lift the heart, and if that's still feeling good, you could release your hands. If you're really going for it, straighten your legs. I'm not going to. For 3, 2, 1, and then roll back so you can use your hands or not, okay? And see if you can kind of come back in a relatively controlled way so you're not just flopping back. And just kind of see how that goes. It may or may not be possible, right? Keep your feet lifted up off the ground. Interlace your fingers around behind the back of your head. And then lift your shoulder blades up off the mat. Before you go, you might want to take a moment just to recheck. Is my pelvic floor drawn in and up? Is my belly button pressing up towards my heart? And then a little bit of a lift, okay? Inhale, tap the right foot down on your exhale. Inhale, lift it up. Exhale, left foot taps down. So we're focusing on keeping the belly drawn in and up. Okay, you can look up towards the ceiling. And if this is feeling quite easy, try it with straight legs. So the right leg comes down some amount and then rises up. And then the left leg does. So we want to stay in a place where we're feeling like there's some work, maybe even a little bit of shaking. Shaking is okay, but we're not holding the breath. We're not hurting the lower back. We feel safe. Okay, but a little bit of shaking is not a bad thing. Really nice, everybody. So good. Following the breath as best as you can. We're just going to do one more round each side. And then everything lifts up and then relax. You can hug your knees into your chest, give yourself a little hug, a little rock from side to side. Hold your left knee, extend your right leg out long, take a nice little stretch release for the psoas, deep breath into the belly. When you're ready, switch, bring in the right knee, extend out the left leg. Nice, long, flat left leg. Deep breath. Beautiful. Okay, release your legs, give them a little shake. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog. So if you're comfortable, you can rock and roll forward and back along your spine. Some of you might even be comfortable crossing the legs, planting the palms, and jumping back. You want to land with bent knees so that you're not jarring anything, okay? Or you can just kind of roll, make your way there however you want. And then you can come through plank pose or not and lower to your knees. And then bring down your elbows and take the palms together in prayer. Shrug the shoulders onto the back, tuck your toes and lift up your bum. So you're in downward dog on your elbows. You might walk your feet a little bit towards your elbows, but you don't have to go, as far as possible or anything like that. You can relax the head. And then see if you can press into the wrist part of your forearms and just notice what happens in your back when you do that. And then just as an experiment, press more into your elbows, less into your hands, and notice how that feels on your back and shoulders. When I press into the wrist edge, my chest goes back towards my thighs a bit more, but I also feel the engagement more in my upper back, so I feel a bit more stable and connected. Okay, child's pose. When you're ready, you can take the thumbs to the back of the skull. Come back to breath. That might mean a sigh. Come back to feel. To downward dog when you're ready. I'm gonna turn around actually. Okay, let's take the right leg up towards the sky. You can roll the hips open if you like, bending the knee, just giving yourself a little bit of space. Sometimes that's nice after a bit of core work. We're gonna step all the way through to warrior two, so just go ahead and place your foot. Spin the back heel down and rise. Leveling the pelvis, knee over top of the ankle. Open your arms. And then do a little thumbs up. Turn the thumbs back. And then gently open the chest. So you're just pressing the thumbs towards the back of the room. You can look to the long edge of the mat or forward towards the short edge. Either way is fine. And just take a few deep breaths. Awesome. Release your hands. Place your right elbow on your thigh and take the left bicep alongside the ear. Ground down through that back heel and slightly tuck the tailbone under. So you're kind of filling up through the back left side of your body and turn slightly up towards the sky. Stay here or hold the back of your skull. With that left hand, just opens the shoulder a little bit more. Think of hugging the elbow towards the temple and then scooping up. Nice. From here, triangle, straighten your front leg, release that left arm up to the sky, and just nice light pressure on the right shin. Keep rolling the thigh back and leaning back a little bit. Okay, stay here or try this. Take your top hand, that's your left hand, reach it towards the back of your mat so the palm is hovering over the hip. Shrug your shoulder onto your back, tuck your chin in, and then release some of the weight of your head and see if you can get a nice little neck stretch here. If you turn the gaze down, that's going to be one kind of experience. If you turn it up and pull the chin forward, you might get into that jaw area that we were talking about I think that was on Thursday in Feel Good Yoga. We were talking about how do I actually stretch these jaw muscles here. Beautiful. Then turn down, look to the earth, plant the palms and step back to downward dog. You can stay right here, or we can flow through any variation of vinyasa. So that would mean something like coming forward to plank, little push up into a back bend. You could also do cat and cow or skip it. Okay, and then bring your knees down. Turn your right foot off to the right, and then open up into gate pose. So the left leg is extended back behind you. So it looks a little bit like triangle, like the pose we were just in, but I'm gonna ask you to try lifting your foot up. So you might need to pad your knee, yeah. Okay, and we'll do both sides of this one, and then we'll switch just so that we're not too, don't worry if you're on a weird side. Okay, and then from here, we're gonna pulse the left foot up towards the ceiling. Keep the foot flexed, it goes lift, 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 lift. That's it, we're trying to strengthen the outer hip a little bit. Try to keep the heel in line with your hip. And if you're really feeling strong, bob it forward any amount. So the foot's coming towards the long edge of the mat. So it's like, yep, that's hard. And then I'm gonna bob it back. And release, come back down, right to hands and knees, just switch out of it. And then let's do a little hip circle. You could also just sort of roll hips side to side. And then let's do that on the second side, just so that we're even there. And then we'll do our sequence on the second side. So you're gonna, sometimes it's easier to talk about it this way first. Right foot back, and then the left foot angles back a little bit so that you're on your left knee, right leg is straight. You're on the left palm or fist and lifting up the leg. You could pad your knee. My toes are currently untucked. That's a little easier on my knee personally. Draw in belly a little bit and we bob. So we're still breathing, but we're just pulsing. Hello, outer hips. How's it going? These are really important muscles for supporting the lower back and the pelvic floor. Maybe we're bobbing forward. That's going to make it harder. It's hard to cheat on this one. It's just hard. You'll feel it. We bob kind of as long as we can stand, which is for me about a breath. And then we bob back. And then we release. Nice work, you guys. Whew. So we can do hip circles. Child's pose is sometimes nice after that. If you want a full vinyasa, that's an option too. Sometimes the full moon is like, whoo, gotta roll out this energy. Let's do it. Okay, when you're ready, let's come into downward dog. We'll take the left leg up, roll the hips open, bend the knee. Tiny bit of a psoas stretch so it can feel really nice. And then warrior two, step it through, back heel spins down, come on up. For me, a big piece around warrior two is leveling the pelvis. So by that, I mean my right hip lowers a little. Arms open. Again, you can make that thumbs up, turn the thumb back, and then gently stretch the chest open. Make sure your knee is right over your ankle. And breathe. So good. Inhale, and then release your hands. Place your elbow on your thigh. Take right bicep alongside the ear. Sometimes for this one, I actually like to lengthen my stance just a touch so I can get a bit deeper into my hips. And I want to really think about tailbone lengthening, front ribs drawing back. And it's not just because of that sort of eternal cue of like engage your core, which sure, It's more so that when I gather the front ribs back and kind of lengthen the lower back, that's when I get the stretch that I really love here along the side of the lower back. Especially reaching my arm up, turning the heart a bit to the sky, and then maybe even holding the skull with the right hand. Beautiful, you guys, it looks great. Okay, one more inhale. And then we're going to transition into triangle. So straighten that front leg, let the fingertips come down, right arm rises to the sky. You may or may not need to adjust your stance a little. It kind of depends on where you're comfortable in triangle. But I do want you to think about having both sides of your waist nice and long. So you can stay up pretty high. Little bit of a bend in your front knee. You just don't want to have that be locked. Same sort of quality of drawing the front ribs back, lengthening the tailbone super strong through the back leg. And then we could take that top hand towards the back of the mat, shrug the shoulder back, tuck chin in, begin to release the weight of the head. And then you can explore a little, looking down. That's a little more back of the neck. A lot of us are really tight there. That might feel really good. Also tilt up and pull your chin away. And for me, like, yes, I will stretch the jaw, thank you. My very tight jaw. That feels nice. Awesome. Okay, inhale. Gently look down, return the hands to the earth, step back, downward dog. Vinyasa if you want to. Don't vinyasa if you don't want to. Okay, from downward dog, make your way to the top of your mat. Standing forward bend. Soften the knees and roll up. Take as many breaths as you want. Collect the shoulders back. Soften the toes. Take a nice deep breath, widening and lifting the ribs. Okay, bring the fingertips together in Hakini Mudra. And I want you to have a little bit of hugging the elbows together so that the shoulders kind of move down the back. So there's a bit of this kind of wrapping of the shoulders down. Lift up all 10 of your toes, spread them apart, reconnect them. Soften the knees, lean left, and then plug your right leg into its socket. And then begin to bend from the left hip so that from your right heel to the crown of your head, you're aligned. And you're just tipping into as much of a warrior three as your sort of hamstring will let you. So the heel stays in line with the head. And then if you want to make it a bit harder, you can bring the mudra forward, but keep hugging the elbows together. Okay, step back into warrior one. Keep the mudra. So the toes land. The toes are a little turned forward. Feet are hips distance apart. Keep hugging the elbows. Draw the tailbone down. Really press into that back leg. And then lift your mudra up, but don't straighten your elbows. So keep them bent and hugging together. Imagine that you're lifting your arms from the pit of your hips. Okay, release your hands in front of you. Take them into a cactus shape. Again, plug the shoulders down the back. Open the chest, straighten your front leg, square your hips, and then begin to fold down. So I'm not expecting you to go sort of flat to the earth, but just to the place where you feel like you're using your core a little bit to help to support your back. You might feel your hamstring stretching already, but just Explore this kind of place of stability. And then come on down. You can put your hands on blocks if you want, or the floor if it's close. Lengthen, drawing the left hip back, heart forward. Some of you might want to step your back foot in a bit. Sometimes that really helps. And then you can choose to stay there or fold. And you can choose to stay there or flow. So we inhale to lengthen, exhale to melt. Nice deep breaths. Every exhale is a little bit of a letting go. And there might be something in particular we're trying to maybe exhale at your mouth. Okay, one more breath. Beautiful. Okay, from here, we're gonna pick that back foot up and just step it a little bit farther back so that the knee can come down and your front knee is still over your ankle. If you've got blocks, bring them to the inside of your front leg and just heel toe your foot a little bit wide so that it's coming towards the long edge of your mat. Feel free to pad your back knee if you need to, okay? If you don't have blocks, you're just up on fingertips, that's fine. And then we're gonna press the hips forward, and I'm even lengthening a little bit more. I have pretty open hips, so I need a pretty long stance here to get the stretch into the hips, keeping the integrity of the front knee. Okay, so you can stay right here, or you can start to fold down a little bit, maybe elbows onto blocks or the floor, maybe not. We're just looking for a hip opening that's functional for your body today. I've got my toes lifted up off the floor and I'm gonna keep them that way, but I could also wing the knee open to the left. So I'm coming into awkward pigeon, sometimes called. Yeah, so you might not be able to see my knee, but if you need to, it's kind of opening to the side, like a wing opening. Winged dragon is my favorite name for this pose. Keep your right butt active. Keep pressing into the toes of that back foot. If the top of the foot is on the floor, you can, that's fine, but you just want to press into the top of the foot. Yeah, okay. Find your way back up to your hands when you're ready. Lift your bum, heel toe your foot back in so that it's just in line with your hip. And then gently straighten out that front leg. So we're in Ardha Hanumanasana now. My hip is over top of my back knee. Similar to the last shape we were doing, a little bit of a bend in the knee, flex the foot, draw the heart forward, and stay or fold as you exhale. Okay, you can keep working here, especially if this is a pretty intense place for you, or we'll just add a little adjustment. So you're just gonna bend that front knee and heel toe it in a little bit so that your front heel and your back knee are right in line with each other. And then straighten again. So this is gonna be a little bit different. Flexing the foot, knees a little bit bent, and then you can turn your body. And it might be like just looking slightly to the left, or you might actually walk your hands to the outside of your leg. Some people that works well. I'm feeling plenty of stretch right here myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and stay. Okay, one more inhale. Again, you might wanna exhale at your mouth. Yeah, nice. And then gently come back through center. If you're folded to the side, heel toe your foot back into hips distance. Tuck those back toes under, gently step forward. It might take you a couple of hops. Lengthen and fold, and then curl up, take your sweet time. You can absolutely come up with a flat back. I often like to roll up because I can kind of find my deep core line and imagine I'm sort of scooping it up. so that my core is really doing the work of helping me to find standing. And then I can kind of go from there. Shoulders collect onto the back. Finding that hydra globe shape pressing together and the elbow hugging slightly. Find your breath, lift your toes. Soften the knees, lean right. And begin to tip forward. So think of plugging the left leg into its socket. And then leaning forward any amount. Keep pressing the fingertips into each other. Try to keep the hips square, and you can reach the mudra forward. Yeah, nice, you guys. And it doesn't matter how far you're going. I just really want you to keep the integrity of your lower back and just working with that strength. You should probably feel your standing hip working. Maybe that back glute as well. Inhale, and then gently step back. We're in warrior one. So we want to ground that back heel down, square the hips, tuck tailbone, and then we've got those elbows hugging together, and we can reach that up. And we're not trying to straighten the arms completely, because we really want to keep this kind of wrapping forward and up sort of quality. Really nice. And then gently release that into the cactus shape. Straighten your front leg, keep your hips really square. And remember, you want hips distance apart between the heels. Again, keeping the integrity of your back. You're just going to dip forward. So you've got quite a bit of weight in the top part of your body here. So we don't need to go that far. But I just want you to kind of feel, where does my core activate in order to support my lower back? And can I keep it nice and neutral? Really pressing into the toes and hugging the shoulder blades a little together and down. Inhale, and then gently release. And again, the hands can be on blocks if that's helpful, or just the floor, or books, whatever you got. Tupperwares are pretty good blocks. And then drawing the right hip back, lengthen forward, stay or fold. And then again, you can flow if that's working for you today. So wherever you are, we're staying connected with the breath. One more. Nice. Okay, and then we're going to come down into that low lunge. So you'll probably need to step your back foot back a little bit or adjust when you come down. Feel free to pad your knee and walk your foot out a little wide as you bring your hands or blocks to the inside of that front leg. And again, I'm pretty mobile in my hips, so I'm actually taking a pretty long stance here so that I can get my knee over my ankle. My toes are just slightly turned out for now. That might change. And then I can stay here, or we can fold a little bit, just starting to really work into the hip. And just noticing how the two hips might be a little bit different. So here I find it's sort of groin, inner thigh that's where I'm feeling the work. And I could wing the knee open, and that's going to be a whole new story. So I've just got the inner arch of my foot coming up. My ankle is still really active, and I'm still pressing my back toes into the earth to keep the leg active. And I want my left glute engaged as well. Breathing deeply. Remember, you can exhale out your mouth, especially if something's coming up that you want to let go of. Okay, one more deep breath. Awesome, you guys. And then come back up. Ease off on your hips. Walk your foot back into the midline. So just heel in line with the hip. And then go ahead and straighten that. Little bend in the knee. And again, you can stay in a shape that works for you, or you can flow with it a little bit. And I find that the flow is actually really nice for stubborn hamstrings because moving with the breath is just fundamentally calming for the nervous system. And sometimes the hamstring needs a little encouragement to release. Okay, and then let's add on this little extra cherry on top here. So you can bend your knee again and just walk it in. So I'm just getting the heel in line with the knee. And then straightening again. So it's a bit of a narrower stance. And then similar to the last shape, I've got a bend in the knee, foot is flexed, and I just want to draw my tailbone back, especially my right bum. And then I can turn just subtly to the right, which is plenty for me today. This side feels even tighter to me than the other. But you could actually walk your blocks or your hands to the outside of your leg, and that's going to be a bit of a deeper stretch for the IT band area. But I find like for a lot of people, it's very tight here. We don't need a lot to kind of get that, space. Awesome. And then let's take one more deep breath. Walk back through center if you're off to one side, bend the knee. Let's step it back to hands and knees, and then take a downward dog. And then if you want to add a little vinyasa flow, you can. Cat and cow or child's pose are also good options here. Just see how you want to kind of reset from that work. Okay, so from here, we're going to play a little bit with our forearm stand. Doesn't mean you have to do forearm stand, but there's lots of great prep that we can do that can feel really good. So if you have a dowel, a block, and a wall, those are all props that we could use in this little sequence. If you don't have anything, don't worry about that. You don't necessarily need anything, but I'll just show you some different variations that you can play with. So for those of you that have a dowel, which is this thingy, try holding the dowel like this so that you've got your palms facing you and the forearms will be down on the ground. The thumbs are wrapped around, okay, not like this. You're holding it pretty strongly, okay? And you're just gonna place that on the mat, okay, kind of like in the forearm stand we were doing. So if you have a dowel, try that. If you have a block, try it like this. So the palms face down and you've got the block in the L's of your hands. So it's gonna be on the floor like that. If you don't have anything, just palms down, or you could even do this one if your shoulders are tight. So lots of options depending on what you're working with. The dowel is a fun one because it actually helps your shoulders stay just a little bit more open than they normally would. So we're on our knees and elbows in one of these variations. And if you've got the dowel, actually, or the block, you can kind of press it in and then just keep your elbows nice and steady on the mat. Okay, option one, stay here. Option two, downward dog. And then maybe walk your feet in a little bit closer to your elbows. Think of trying to get your shoulders over your elbows and push into the wrist edge of the lower arm. Okay, look at the floor. And if you're really feeling comfortable, you can lift a leg up. We did lots of work around this today, hugging the inner thighs together, core engaged, nice long hamstrings. And if you want, you can do a little hops. I don't recommend that if you don't have a wall. But if you do have a wall, you can do a little kicking. And I'm just gonna try that myself here. And any of these shapes will do. It's just that certain props give us a different kind of experience to work with. And I find the dowel is actually great because I can really press it together and find that balance point a little easier than some of the other props. Okay, your center of gravity will be slightly behind your elbows in forearm stand. If you've been kicking, try the second side. You can kick without a wall, just don't overdo it because I don't want you to flip. I'm just checking in here. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you're feeling like child's pose is the variation you want to do, perfect. Yeah. Paisley, which prop are you using there? Got the block. Okay, I think you could bring your elbows together just slightly more and try and see how that feels. Yeah.
Like this?
So thumbs under.
Mm-hmm.
So like this. Yeah, nice stable grip. Yeah, so we'll take a couple more breaths to play with this. Nice. That looks great, you guys. And we can meet in child's. Beautiful work, you guys. I'm going to show you something about how, I know not all of you have a wall, but I'm just going to show you something. So whether you're going up or not, and this takes a little bit of like proprioception. So we kind of practice being upside down because our brains aren't used to it. And it's kind of hard to know like, where is my body? So just something to think about. You want to imagine that your top leg is connected into your body, like we talked about before with the balances. So everything is really straight and strong with that top leg. The action is happening with the bottom leg. So you want to think about just bottom leg working, top leg is just a weight. You can kind of imagine that it's just like a nice straight weight. And you can even do that without the wall, but really just practicing keeping the leg plugged in. When we try to kick with the top leg, that's when we get into all this kind of trouble. We're not actually kicking with the top leg, we're more kicking with the bottom leg. So that's a little kicking tip. Helpful? Yeah. Yeah. All right, beautiful, you guys. So let's come into child's pose when you're ready. And I find after forearm stand, I really like my hands resting beside my hips so that my shoulders can just kind of flop. You can let your breath release here for a moment. Maybe that means a sigh or just some nice deep belly breaths. Beautiful. I also love a bridge after forearm stand. And forearm stand opens us for back bends, and it also is like a nice counter pose for the shoulders too. So let's find our way onto our backs. We'll just do one. If you love wheel and you want to add it to the end, you can. I'm not going to really teach wheel today though. I need to cool down. So I'm laying on my back. I've got my heels, personal preference, outer hips distance apart. That's not classical, but it works for me. Feet parallel, elbows beside their ribs, fingertips pointed up to the sky. Elbows pressed down and apart and the shoulders hug down the back. I want to engage my core, but again, not classical. I don't like curling up into bridge because I want to keep the back neutral because it's a back bend. So I'm going to press into the heels and just lift up. You can stay here, hold the edges of your mat and pull them apart. That's one option. Or interlace the fingers under you and snuggle those shoulders onto your back. Hug the inner thighs together, push the floor away, and press the arms down into the earth. You know, it took me like 10 years of yoga practice to realize that bridge was supposed to feel good. For a long time, I was just like, what is this? I don't like it. But now I can really feel the length along the front side of my body and the strength in the back body, the opening in the shoulders. Okay, if you want to come into wheel, you're welcome to. Again, I'm not going to teach that. So if it's not your super safe, comfortable pose, maybe not today. When you're ready, come on down and rest, knees together, or feet could be together, knees wide. And take some nice deep breaths into your belly. I love a back bend on a full moon because it kind of squeezes the adrenal glands, just sort of squeezes out whatever's stuck in there, and then release. And the nervous system can kind of drop after that. So when you're ready, let's hug the knees into the chest, and you can rock a little from side to side. And if you're feeling good here, happy baby, so knees go wide. That's a nice option, just knees wide, or you can hold the feet, ankles, and maybe rock. This is so nice for the lower back. Really nice for the inner thighs too. Release that, send the legs up to the sky, and then roll over to your right side, just briefly. Knees roughly in line with the hips, heels in line with the knees. You can put something between your knees if you want. Natural curve in the lower back, left arm goes up and rolls open. So this is a twist that is a little more focused in the upper back. And this is just all I want to do these days. Just open the chest and kind of reset the shoulder girdle. So you can look to the left or you can rock your head side to side. And if this particular twist isn't working for you, feel free to take a different one. An example would be this one, which is nice open hips. That's nice if you're pregnant. And I've got just sort of a mild little bit of activity sort of in my lower back. My core is pretty relaxed. Trying to breathe into my belly. Okay, and then we'll come out. So I like to roll onto my right side first. So I kind of come out the way it came in and then over to the other side. Knees line up, heels in line with knees. You could put a prop between your knees, little natural curve in the lower back, right arm goes up and open. And I just love this opening in the chest here. I find, you know, we don't get that spot open enough. Everybody's tight in there. Again, you could rock the head or be still. And if on this side you need to adjust in some way, if this twist isn't serving you, feel free to adjust. And then again, to come out, you can roll to your side. And then from there onto your back. And again, you can rock a little from side to side if you want to come back into happy baby. Sometimes that's really nice after a twist too. And I'm going to offer one last shape for us to do today. And if you have something in mind that you really want or need for your practice, feel free to take it, especially if it's calming and symmetrical. Otherwise, follow me. So you can roll to one side and come up to your seat. And then have a seat on a little cushion, like one of these. And then take the soles of your feet together and your knees open wide. Not too close to your groin, so you've got a little diamond shape that you're working with. And then you can roll the shoulders onto the back, get nice and tall through the spine, and then let your chin fall forward. And it's like a little massage. We're just going to rock the head. side to side. Just nice and lazy. Okay, and if the shoulders want to rock with the head too, let them. And in your own time, you can start to dip forward from the hips a bit as well. And you're getting some of your hips here. You're just kind of waving from side to side, nice and easy. Just coming down as far as feels good. And you might find that you want to pause in a certain place where you're really feeling the stretch that is nice for you right now. So there's no rush and there's no real goal here, except for just kind of massaging out whatever needs a little massage out at the end of our practice. And if you're finding that you want to just come right through center and take a couple breaths in stillness, that's beautiful. And then when that feels complete for you, you can gently roll up. You might want to take your hands behind you, bring the knees together and do a little windshield wipe and or a little shake. And then we'll take Shavasana. So Shavasana means as comfortable as you can be today. So for most of us, it's laying on the back. You could have a bolster under your knees. That shape makes my husband instantly fall asleep. You could also be laying on your side. You could be in seated meditation if that's where you're most comfortable. Just finding the place that works for you. You don't necessarily need any props for it, but if you have them, they're great. And then you can take a deep breath and just receive the work of your practice. And take a moment to notice how you're feeling right here. And if what you need today is to stay longer, that's perfect. Otherwise, you can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe rock your head. Maybe stretch, just letting your breath really fill you up. And then gather the knees in and roll over to one side. And then up to a seat. You could bring your hands together to touch at your heart or over top or whatever shape feels right for you today. And then gently bow your mind towards your hands, just taking a moment to honor and acknowledge the work that it took for you to show up to your practice today, whatever that practice looked or felt like. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage that is with us when we practice our yoga. And to honor the sacredness of the land that we practice on. Thank you for sharing your practice with me.